In association with Bonhams, welcome to this, our review of the Autumn Stafford sale held at the Classic Motorcycle and Mechanics Show last weekend. Now, it was a tremendous event. We've already done 2 preview videos of this auction, and to summarise it up, the sale was really strong. In fact, it was one of the best they've ever done. It took just over £3.6 million in sales. The sale itself included just over 270 motorcycles, including the beautiful Foreshore collection of speedway bikes that we saw in one of our preview videos. And that, as an example alone, that collection had an estimate of around £350,000 and actually took £510,000 in total, including premiums. So it was a very strong sale, and it was great for both sellers and buyers alike. So what we're going to do in this video is run through the bikes that we featured in our 2 preview videos, give you a sort of top of the pop style countdown of what they achieved, and at the end I'm going to come back to you with what I would pick if I could have had any bike from the collection, from the auction, which one would I have taken home. And I've actually cheated and picked 2 because I couldn't make my mind up. So without further ado, so the first bike we're going to look at is the stunning 1974 Ducati 750 SS. Fully restored about 20 years ago, never really ridden, kept in a museum sort of environment. Superb condition, one of only 400 made. These green frame Ducatis are red hot, and the estimate, well, it reflected that. £140,000 to £170,000 estimate on this bike, and including the premium, it beat that. An incredible £172,500, which has got to be up there as a record price for one of these. There was a couple of other Ducatis we mentioned. The Lot 488, the Ducati 900 SS from 1981. Estimate £15,000 to £20,000, and all in it fetched £17,250. And then the little single-cylinder Ducati as well, Lot 489, the 450 Mark III Desmo. Gorgeous looking bike, 1969 example. Estimate £8,500 to £10,000, including premium it fetched just over £8,050 all in. Next in the line we looked at that historically significant bike, the incredible Lot 539, which was the 1938 BSA Gold Star JM24 model, the oldest surviving example out there, unrestored, still running, second one ever to come off the production line. It's just an incredible story to tell. Fabulous unrestored condition. Estimate on that actually had no reserve, but the estimate was £20,000 to £30,000, and again it beat its estimate. It went for £33,350, including premium. And that bike, there was another bike from the same owner that was in there as well. It was a BSA Rocket 3. Now it was Lot 538, 1971 example. Really nice condition. Again, estimate on that £6,500 to £8,500, which was pretty reasonable, but it broke its estimate, £10,350, including premiums. Next machine was a fantastic race bike, really important one, Lot 550, the ex-Barry Sheen, ex-John Cronshaw Norton Manx replica that was ridden by Barry in his last ever race, actually, last competitive race at Goodwood back in 2002. Now, estimate on that bike was £55,000 to £75,000, but it was one of the very few bikes that actually didn't sell in the auction, and it failed to reach its reserve, so that one remains unsold. But there was a fantastic collection of race bikes later in the day, and some of those fetched some incredible prices. Lot 648, Yamaha TZ125H, about 1981 model, estimate £2,000 to £3,000, fetched £4,600 all in. And there was a couple of MZs in that collection as well, which were really interesting. Lot 638, 1974 RE250 Grand Prix bike, MZ 2-stroke. Project machine, it wasn't all there, but fairly complete. Estimate with no reserve, really low, just £3,500 to £5,500. Absolutely smashed it out of the water, this one. Including premium, £35,650. And that was almost matched by the sort of sister bike that was there, Lot 639, a 1972 MZ 250 Grand Prix bike. Even more of a project, this one, less complete than the previous. Estimate £4,000 to £6,000, no reserve, all in £25,300 paid for that machine. It's incredible results on those very rare and interesting MZ race machines. Oh, one other race bike to mention, Lot 640, 1975 AMF Harley Davidson, Again, 250cc GP bike. We saw this actually ourselves when we went to a Festival of 1,000 Bikes at Mallory Park earlier in the year on the Bonhams display. A really interesting, cool looking bike. Estimate £5,000 to £8,000. Again, smashed it out of the water. £29,900 including premiums. Incredible price, but a very interesting bike. So moving away from race bikes into a race replica this time. Lot 455, 1995 Honda NSR 250R SP, the hottest of those two-stroke 250 race replicas that were available at the time. Japanese market only, but this bike was brought to the UK from new in 95. 250cc pocket rocket, beautiful in that Rothmans livery. Estimate £10,000 to £15,000. Well, it beat its estimate again, £16,100 including premium. There were some other interesting Hondas that we spoke about as well. So lot 461, the CBX 1000, a pre-production machine from 1977. Estimate on that 20,000 to 25,000, actually sold below estimate, and it did sell £18,400. Really interesting bike. Lot 459, really, again, we saw this at Mallory Park, Festival of 1,000 Bikes, never seen one before. A backer Honda, so it included the CBX 1000 engine in a frame that was produced in 2014 in Holland. Again, a fabulous looking machine, a way of modernising that old 6-cylinder engine. And where are you going to find another one of these? Estimate £4,000 to £6,000, needed recommissioning, actually sold for £11,500 including premium. Now moving on to some earlier pre-war machines, lot 577, the Excelsior Super X, 1928, 750cc V-twin, recently featured in one of the classic motorcycle magazines in the UK. Good rideable machine. Estimate, really good value, £20,000 to £24,000. Actually sold for a really strong £28,750, including the premium. And then one of my favourites, we filmed it running actually when in the preview, lot 584, the 1939 Nimbus 750 Sport. That really quirky Danish bike, inline 4-cylinder. 1 million views we've had on that on our Instagram channels, so do check that out. It's been really popular. Estimate £7,000 to £9,000. Actually sold for £9,775. Now there's some fabulous veteran pre-1913 bikes included in the auction, and the prices for these remain really strong. Interest in this period, again, is as strong as ever, and that's demonstrated in these prices. 1904 Ariel, well over its estimate, £7,000 to £10,000 estimated, 18,400 including premium. The glorious 1906 Peugeot V-twin, that's the same engine that Norton used in their 1907 TT winning bike that Rem Fowler rode. It was a wonderful thing. Estimate £17,000 to £20,000. It fetched 34,500 including its premiums. The 1912 New Hudson, the second ever on the Pioneer Sunbeam register. Estimate on that £3,000 to £5,000. Again, 9,775 all in. The gloriously named 1911 Abingdon King Dick, the people that made the spanners, also made bikes. 500cc single, 12,000 to 15,000 estimated, but it achieved £17,250 all in. And then finally, the pattern on this bike was unbelievable. The 1912 Rudge Multi TT, £15,000 to £18,000 estimated, and achieved a really strong £20,700 including premiums. So now moving on to the Foreshore collection. So we produced a preview video of this at the Haynes Museum where the bikes had been for a number of years on display. Incredible collection of speedway bikes, and I'm just going to run through then the ones we featured in that video, starting with the stunningly beautiful lot 509, 1927 Indian 350cc. Incredible known history, incredible record behind the bike. Estimate on that £90,000 to £130,000. Actually achieved £92,000 including premium, so just at the lower end of its estimate, but an incredible bike. Lot 507, 1928 Douglas DT5, twin cylinder machine. Estimate 12 to 16, sold for £13,800. Then the Norton 500cc overhead valve model, lot 502, estimate on this 14 to 18,000, and again it beat its estimate, £20,700 all in. Then moving on to another fine British machine, the BSA, and again like the Norton, these weren't very successful in their time, so they're incredibly rare now, only a handful made and only a handful survive. Estimate on this £8,000 to £12,000, £18,400 including premium achieved and paid for the bike. Then a really special machine, the lot 508, the 1934 Crocker. So handmade, superbly engineered, very rare, rarest of rare, most desirable bike. Estimate on this £100,000 to £150,000, and well, it ended up slap bang in the middle of that. £126,500 paid, including the premiums. Then moving on to a couple more British bikes. So we had a pair of Excelsiors, a pre-war and post-war examples, both with the Jap engines. The pre-war Mark 1 estimated at 7 to 10, sold for £18,400. And the post-war Mark 2, again, that was estimated at £5,000 to £7,000, and that achieved a really strong £17,250. They're my two favourite bikes out of this whole collection. We saw one of these when we went to the Banbury Run at Gaydon earlier in the year. A pair of Wallace framed and Wallace built pre-war machines. One with a Blackburn engine, which was lot 503, circa 1930. Estimate 10 to 15,000, and it sold for £19,550. And then a Jap engine version, sort of circa 1931, again estimate 10 to 15, and sold for exactly the same amount, £19,550. They were absolutely gorgeous looking things. And it was a really interesting bike next to those, a two-stroke. So a Scott, circa 1929, and there was 7 Scotts actually in this sale, all of them sold, all fetching really strong money. They have a really good cult following almost, these machines, and they continue to do well. So this great looking bike, estimate £6,000 to £8,000, absolutely blew it out of the water, £24,150 including the premium. We finished the pre-war selection by looking at 2 totally unrestored bikes. The first one, lot 498, was a Victor Martin Rudge with a Jap engine. We actually saw this one as well at the Banbury Run on the Bonhams display earlier in the year. And circa 1933, estimate £12,000 to £16,000, sold for £25,300 including the premium. And the final of the pre-war bikes, the lot 499, completely unrestored barn find, if you like, Rudge Whitworth. Rudge being the boys at this period, circa 1930, they were the brand and the bike to beat. Estimate on this, £8,000 to £14,000, and it fetched a really strong £10,350, including premiums. So moving on to some of the post-war, more modern machines that were in the collection. There was plenty to go at, but we just focused on sort of 3 or 4 of these. First one, the 1977 Westlake, formerly owned by Peter Collins, who was world champion in 76, and he rode this one in 77. Estimate, a really great value, 2.2 to sort of £3,200 estimate, and it sold for £8,050 all in. Then lot 517, a sort of circa 1975 Jawa model 890, estimate £1,800 to £2,600, and that went down for £5,520. And then finally the Peter Jarvis PJGM laydown, so one with a laydown engine, one of the early examples. Estimate on that £1,500 to £2,500, and that sold for a reasonable £2,875 including premium. So that concludes our rundown of the prices achieved for the bikes that we previewed in our 2 previous videos, and I'll finish then by saying which bike, or I couldn't decide on one, so which 2 bikes, if I could have picked any from the auction, would I like to have taken home and put in my collection here. And I've gone for one pre-war, one post-war. Now the first one, pre-war, a stunningly beautiful, incredibly rare, 1931 Montgomery Jap Greyhound. Now there's a Montgomery V-twin port in the National Motorcycle Museum, which is like stuff of legend. And this is like the single cylinder version of that, if you like. I love those sloper, twin port, high pipe machines. It just screams early 1930s. Nice chrome tank. Estimate 18 to 24,000 pounds, and that one sold for 20,700 pounds all in. And then finally, the post-war bike that I could have taken home if I had my choice and the funds would have been Lot 472, a nice early example, a 1970 Norton Commando fastback, and it just looked great. Drum brake model in that green with the silver side panels. Stunning looking bike, really, really nice and really usable bike as well, the Commandos. You just can't go wrong with them. Estimate on that, £6,500 to £8,500, and it went for a really reasonable £8,050, including premium. So that concludes our rundown of the auction. It's a fabulous event, and we hope you enjoyed this video, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.